Do I look like someone you should listen to? You shouldn't. So warning, everything I'm about to say is opinion. This is very different from facts, because I have no evidence to base it off of. Instead, I'm just going off of my own perspective. So, if it sounds like fact and you want to believe it, do your own research. Maybe you can. But not because you heard it from me. I'm an asshat. Do you see this? This is to show you that no matter how suave I look and or sound, I'm just an asshat underneath. So, do your own research and enjoy. Trigger warning, religious discussion ahead.
Where you from? What we doing here? Where you from? It's Matres.
Hello, my name is Zed, and I'm here to talk to you today about the condition of the world and how things aren't going so well. But it is not just a hopeless conversation, because there is hope. Unfortunately, that I'm only here in the States, the United States, I don't have the perspective from somebody who's in Czechoslovakia. I don't have the perspective of someone who's in Australia or who's in China or who's anywhere else in the world. I only get little bits, like a little peek through a keyhole every once in a while from online. But outside of that, it's not my story to share. But here in the United States, this is where my story is. So that's what I want to share with you. We here in the United States, right now, in 2021, it's September. It's pretty tense. I'm pretty sure that every single American feels as though everything's kind of on the wishy-washy, where the future might not look so hopeful. There's climate change, there's corruption, there's greed, there's racism, sexism, there's just all sorts of violence. And now down here with the people, us, the American people, we're now opposing one another, starting to fight in the streets, going to schools and shooting each other, where it just seems like it's really bad. And I don't think there's any of us, especially here in the States, that would be like, no, everything's honky-dory. This is exactly where we want to be. This is a utopian society. No. God, no. But I understand that makes a lot of us, no matter where you are in the world, because it might be something similar in your own home country, that it starts to feel depressing. It starts to feel hopeless. And we all have that feeling inside of ourselves that it should be better. It could be better. If only someone would make it better. And since it's only the people at the top that have the true power, that have that true authority to make things different, we look to them. Can you please make it better? No, you're not going to make it better. Hopefully we can elect, or a different king or a different leader will come around that will make things better. Because we all want it. We all desire that on the inside. We know that that's possible. But in the world that we see in front of us, it does not seem likely. It seems almost impossible. So, now within ourselves, within myself, I have this internal conflict of knowing that it can be better, and yet seeing that it's not getting any better. That the people in those extreme positions that have the ability to make things better don't want to. And so, it makes you have to wonder, why? Why would someone who is in a position of authority, someone who claims to represent the people, why is it that they're okay with there being so much suffering among the people? That doesn't seem like a good representative. So why is that possible? How is it that we keep allowing this to happen? Well, I have a theory. My theory is based in Genesis, the story of Adam and Eve and the Lord God creating heaven and earth in 6 days and resting on the seventh. This, along with the religions that followed, whether it be Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, they all begin with Genesis. And the believers in the stories that follow Genesis, because you can't have the other religions without there being the intro. It's the origin story, Genesis. The thinking that comes from Genesis and its associating religions has set the world up as it is today. So am I saying that we're all, super involved with religion and we followed the book according? No, I am not saying, especially here in the United States, where we're supposed to have separation of church and state. Doesn't exist, but we're supposed to have it. So, in theory, a church couldn't be so bold as to tell a president exactly what to do or anything like that. So, but supposedly there's a separation. But we, as the American people, just as you might be in your country, are believers in the story. Not just of Genesis, but whatever faith it is that we choose to believe. So here in the States, it's more Christianity or Christian focused. And it is what is setting this world up to be as not hopeless, but feeling as hopeless as it is. The story that was used to explain to us the creator of this universe, that was supposed to give us an understanding of where we are. What is this universe? Who are you? What is our place in this universe? The story of Genesis answered all those questions, and it gave us an answer that led us to be where we are today. It could be worse. 100% it could be worse. If we still allowed the religious faiths to have as much power as they once yielded, things could be so much worse. Because in that story that begins with Genesis, it tells us that there is a very important hierarchy that we all must recognize and abide by. The top of the stack, the totem pole, that's the King of Kings, Lord God, the male who created everything here in this universe. Created you, created wind, created the sun, created the moon, created the stars, created the earth, created everything. Below him are his representatives, male representatives, because it is a male God, the King of Kings. So below the King of Kings are the kings, the males who represent him here on this earth. You have their court, their lords and ladies, anybody that's working for them, all the way down to us, the peasants, the everyday people, the beggars, the blind, the lepers, the people. And we are servants, not just to the Lord, but to all those within that hierarchy of the Lord. So even down here where we're peasants, if I'm a male peasant and you're a female who's a peasant, you are still below me. If you're my wife, you're definitely below me. You're basically my property. I own you. Which isn't right, but that's what the story has told us. Your kids, they're not your responsibility, they are your property. Kids must respect their elders. You give respect to the people who are giving their respect to people who give their respect to people, going up the line all the way to the King of Kings. Unfortunately, in this world, the money and the work that we put in never quite goes up to the King of Kings. It stops in this reality with the kings. And that's why, after this story was created, the manipulative men who put the story out there suddenly ascended to a higher power where they no longer had to justify it just with an iron fist. Now they could say, not only am I going to beat and torture you and murder you and burn you at the stake, but I'm going to be able to do that and still claim to have authority. So even if you defeat me, even if you beat me, I will still be the one that's supposed to reign. There will be the King of Kings who's now looking at you, just waiting to punish you. Punish you with sickness. Punish you with any bad thing that might befall your children. So, you can get me, but you're going to get yours in the end. And it continued, and eventually it got to the medieval times when now kings are starting to claim that they're associated to the King of Kings, that their claim to dominion over this land, over these people, over the resources of this land, comes from God himself, the King of Kings. This is mine. And it went on for a long time, stifling our growth as a human species. Because we weren't allowed to ask questions. We weren't allowed to do anything outside of this very specific hierarchy. That is the rule. That is what you do. You want to question it? That's fine. We're going to pull you into the town square. We're going to torture you. We're going to do all sorts of whatever it is we can do to you to get you to take it back. You don't get to say that I don't have the proper authority to rule over this land. Take it back. You want to say that my God's not the right God? Take it back. And then maybe after you take it back in front of everybody you know, love, and have ever known potentially, then I might give you a quick death. I use you as an example, and then I discard you. Because the only thing that was important about you is the fact that, one, you started to question me. Now you could be a problem, a thorn in my side. So I brought that thorn in front of everybody else, and I said, do you guys want to be thorns too? This is what we do to thorns. So now you've served your second example. You were the example. You are the reason why somebody else who starts to question whether or not I have true dominion over this land is now going to keep their mouth shut, do as they're told, send that respect up, straight up pyramid scheme style. Maybe, if you send enough up my way, I might just trickle some down to you. Maybe. And it continued. It continued and continued until we started having, the French Revolution, the idea that people started to recognize that the story, the Genesis story, the Christian story that was used by these kings to claim their dominion didn't necessarily give them dominion, didn't give them permission to do all the things that they were doing. So they had a revolution. They stood up and said, hell no. This here has got to change. The only problem that I see with what they did is that they went after the leaders who were definitely taking advantage of them, but they left the story that allowed the leaders to take advantage of them alone, which continues. So we lost the kings and queens. Now the people that wanted to use this story to show you that same hierarchy, because we still believe it, had to pick a different way. That's when America comes in. We decided, no, we're going to have it where citizens are citizens. There's a separation of church and state. We get to do by and for the people type governing. Let's get it done. Just so happened to be that a majority of the people that went over to the New World were looking for some form of religious freedom to get away from the king who was over in England and to start celebrating their own faith in a new place. So right off the bat, that manipulative story that tells us about this established hierarchy came to the New World, was influencing those who were in this New World. It gave them permission to slaughter anybody who also lived here, even if they happened to exist long before they showed up. It was fine. They had the decree from God. They had the decree from the king who represented the King of Kings to go after those people. And they slaughtered them, took what they wanted, and then established their new colonies. We decided to split away from the King of Kings and then become our own. Like I say, with the church and state separated. And that story pervaded. We kept having males at the head of the family. Those who were in the highest seats of authority were either representatives that were with the king already, so part of the lords and ladies in that hierarchical structure, or they were the people who ascended to the religious clergy. Now they were going to be the ones to tell us what was right. Now we have to give them our money, give them our respect. They are the ones who are representing the King of Kings. We just don't have a king anymore. And it gave white men the ability to do anything they wanted to do with anybody who was a non-white male. And we say that slavery was the necessary evil upon which this nation was built, which is basically another way of saying that this nation would have failed if we weren't able to take advantage of someone. We had to have someone so low on that totem pole that they would be able to put in all their effort, more effort than a normal human would be willing to put in a single day, every day. If we didn't have that, this country would have never succeeded. It wasn't like this was the freedom that would have allowed this country to continue would have been something that allowed us to continue. No. It had to be money. Financially, something had to be done. So we had to break the back of someone to ensure that the wealthy white men had the ability to pay for whatever it is they wanted to do, to trade with foreign nations, to establish themselves as a new nation. What gave them that justification to do that? This hierarchical structure that came from Genesis. So we realized, oh wait, turns out that no, there's no reason why we should be able to enslave other people if we follow the golden rule. I don't want to be owned, you shouldn't be owned. Let's not own people. Let's not beat people for not doing what it is that we want them to do. Freedom. Oh. Which probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Dred Scott. In the Dred Scott case, he basically went to the Constitution and says, we the people, pointed out the fact that black people were in fact people. And since it didn't say, we the white people, or we the white landowning people, it just said, we the people. That included those who were brought over as slaves. They are people. Black lives matter. So, nobody was happy with it at the time, but sure, black people are judicially or legally able to be free. There was a amendment passed. Yay! But that hierarchical structure didn't go away. The people that were at the lowest part of the totem pole were still considered to be at the lowest part of the totem pole. Just because they were no longer in chains didn't mean that they suddenly ascended to a higher level. No. It just meant that now the lower level was no longer considered the slave level. Not that it's gone too far based on incarceration. We won't go there, though. Blah, 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 blah. Fast forward. We're in today. Today where that same fucking hierarchical structure exists. Where you and I, the peasant class, were born into a world where when you hit the age of maturity, you don't get to sit idle. You don't get to do nothing. You must be doing something. Work. 40 hours a week, every week of the year. You may get occasional time off, but the idea is just as slavery was the necessary evil for the success of this nation, so is you going to work, grinding every single day. You are the new necessary evil for the triumph of this country. Company. Wow, that would have been a Freudian slip that's not wrong. And it's still at the same hierarchical structure. You and I are the peasants. We do the work for those who are higher than us, those who are the men in charge, those who are the wealthy landowning and resource-owning individuals within this nation, those who represent the King of Kings, those who got their power, got their wealth by using this story to manipulate us. To convince us that even now, even when there's a large population of us that do not necessarily believe in the story of Genesis, that we still understand ourselves to be the lowest on the totem pole, the ones that have to grind and work and bad word choice, slave away at the behest of those who are higher than us, so that we can possibly make enough money to survive, and they can make enough money to buy super yachts and private islands and 19 different houses in, 12 different countries. Because that's the hierarchical structure. That's how it's supposed to go. That is the way of the world as it was created. So we accept it. We accept that there's always going to be someone that is in a higher position of power, someone who has more authority, someone who knows far more than we do. Our job is to be good servants, to do what they ask of us, to ensure that they get to continue. Because if they fail, we fail. If we fail, we fail. They're fine. So, we're still in the pyramid scheme. We're still sending all our wealth, our abilities, our talents, our good ideas up this totem pole, hoping that somebody at the top will trickle down to us. Yes, that idea is worth something. It's worth $2 billion. Here's $4,000. Way to go. Now I'm going to sell it over here for, what it's actually worth. But thank you for giving it to me. You are such a good servant. Here's an award. Congratulations. Thank you. And it's wrong. It's wrong. The hierarchical structure itself is incorrect. So, we shouldn't have a situation where there are corporate leaders who are now today in the United States the basic king of kings, the ones who own the land, who own the resources, who basically own us. Because they can kick us out of their ranks, and there's plenty of people that they can swoop up and fill those empty voids with. Because they are the ones in power. They are the ones that are the kings in the United States. And they got their power from that king of kings hierarchical structure that puts us down here at the bottom. The place where you and I will remain. The only way that we can get up that totem pole is if we can make enough wealth for one of those people along the way. You're a talented singer. You're a great athlete. You are a scientific genius. You are whatever it is you are. That amazing talent you have, that ability, you have to sell it to one of these people higher on the totem pole in hopes that they will give you a fair price. And they won't. They don't need to because of that structure. Because you aren't worth it. You are just a peasant. Unfortunately, here in America, you're a peasant that just so happens to have rights. For now. But now I've paid off all your politicians. They no longer really represent you. So, on this totem pole, I own almost everything, including you. But you still have this much freedom, this much ability to do what it is you want to do. So, we spend that time doing what we want to do, hanging out with family, trying to find love, trying to find a good house, trying to find a reliable car. Do something that's enjoyable. Go boating, camping, hiking, skiing, mountain climbing, whatever it is we do. Go to an orgy. And then we have to go back to work. We have to grind and grind and grind and grind. Maybe with 2 weeks of vacation. Maybe. And all because that is the world we were born into. The hierarchical structure. And you were born at the bottom. Well, I'm here to point out that that entire structure was a manipulated structure. It's all bullshit. The idea that there's a king of a king, a kings, and then all their courts, jesters, bullshit to us. Nope. Take that totem pole, squish it down. That's the hierarchical structure. What are you saying, guy? What do you mean, crush that thing down? Are you saying we should destroy it? No, no, of course not. I'm saying that there is nobody who gets to exist above another. What? You're calling for communism or... No. Although I will say that communism, Marxism, all those types of isms that exist out there, on paper, really aren't that bad. The reason why we are able to say that there are these horrible ideas that only the worst and evil amongst us would try and force on is because of the people who existed within that hierarchical structure who implemented those ideas that on paper weren't necessarily bad, but because they were greedy, manipulative, lying assholes, they took something that wasn't bad and turned it into something that could be just horrendous. In the same way that we've done with democracy. The idea that one person, one vote, we get to vote, the majority idea wins. What a beautiful idea. Unless, of course, you start redrawing district maps and you start making it so that some people aren't allowed to vote, and then you just manipulate it and change it and turn it, and then you create the Electoral College. Let's make it so that after slavery, some of the states with the least amount of people actually have more of a vote, and then the people in the states that have lots of people actually have less of a vote, and that way it all evens out and we're being more equal. Because in this hierarchical structure, men who manipulate move up. And it's true for women too, but because it is a Genesis-based hierarchical structure, women will always be lower than men. Unfortunately, that is the structure which we were given. But again, it is bullshit, in my personal opinion. It's all a lie. That structure was created by men for you to follow, to ensure that no matter what happened, men would be at the top, everybody else would be below them. How did they do that? Genesis. Very simply, the story of Genesis is not accurate. And I know I say that goofy because of, I think it's DJ Khaled? I'm not sure. But somebody said it at one point. It's like, ain't nobody got time for that. There's certain phrases I'll say a lot. But accurate means accurate. I do understand the correct word. Yeah, it's a bullshit lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. In my personal opinion. So, if it's a lie, why would I just say that? Am I just saying it's a lie and there's nothing else to replace? No. I have an idea of what could replace this bullshit story, in my personal opinion. And it's our story. Don't think that I'm trying to be some cult leader and I'm now going to give you a religion that you... No, this is not... This is our story, our religion. It does not belong to me. I am not in the long line of manipulative men who could have used the story of Genesis to seek out my profit. It's not hard. Really, it isn't. I just consider myself not to be a big enough asshole to do it. I live my life according to the golden rule. Do I want someone to manipulate me using a bullshit story? No. Am I okay using that bullshit story to manipulate someone else? Of course not. That would make me feel dirty, wrong. Doesn't mean I haven't had the thought cross my mind. It's been there. I've even planned it out. Thinking, hey, I'll just do like a prayer services where I'll get in contact with a bunch of churches, and then because they're greedy enterprises, all I have to do is say that, hey, I'm going to have people that send me prayers for their loved ones who are sick. I'm going to send you a little memo with a certain amount of money. I need you to be able to read these names off in your church during your service. The idea being is now I get to sell to those who are religious believers that when your family's sick, when you really need that job, when you need that raise, and you need a little assistance from the Lord, call direct line phone or prayer services where you can give us your prayer and we'll send it out to all the churches in the United States, to at least 10,000 churches, and they'll read your prayer within their mass. And therefore, many more people will be pushing that prayer up to the Lord And maybe, just maybe, it will be answered. Of course people are going to do that. There are times when we're so desperate and we see someone who's dying on a hospital bed that we will do anything. Am I willing to be the person to have you part with your money in hopes that your prayer might get answered? No. Even though I know that it's almost a victimless crime, where there may be some wonderful thing that happens and the doctors turn a corner and suddenly the person that you would have put that prayer in for gets better, and it seems like a miracle. So that could have been me and my business that allowed that to happen. But it wasn't. I don't believe that it was. It was the doctors. It was the years and years and generations of scientific knowledge that coalesced at that time for that individual and allowed somebody to see something that maybe they didn't see before. And sometimes it's just dumb luck. Sometimes the universe aligns and, you were holding in a fart and suddenly you fart and it relieves the pressure enough and somehow that allows the medicine to... It doesn't matter. Sometimes it just works out. But I would not be willing to be the person to sell myself with a story that I don't believe is true. So, again, it's easy. And again, a victimless crime, but still not worth it. Not okay. Not according to the golden rule. Not according to my own moral compass. So, but after realizing that the story was goofy, it was up to me to try and figure out what could replace it. I'm not here just telling you that the story's bullshit and there's nothing there. You just have to... Nope, we're like anybody who's arguing for religion will say, is either you believe in something or you're just a bunch of molecules floating around in this universe with no direction or purpose. Well, that's bullshit. Turns out there is a lot of purpose when you do not have to believe the story of Genesis. So, what is it? What have I discovered? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about. Calm down. Jeez. Oh, man. I don't even know how to start. Should I start with the beginning, in the beginning? Or should I just start with now? Well, we'll start with now because that's how I went through my own personal investigation. Where did I come from? So, remove all thoughts of God, all thoughts of Genesis, all thoughts of the pre-found notions that we were told about what this universe is and where we came from. Where did you as an individual come from? Your mom. That's the answer I had. My mom. I was created inside my mom by my mother. And that's where I came from. Yes, my dad helped a little bit, but he was a dad that left when I was 2, so I've known him for a while as the sperm donor. So he did contribute something. But it was my mother who created me. Her body was the perfect incubation system to allow me to go from being a microscopic zygote to being a giant-headed baby that was too stubborn to turn upside down to come out in a natural birth. I stayed sideways and had to be cut out via cesarean section. So, basically I was a fetus that slept in a little bit too long. That'll come up later too. Okay, but how did my mom create me? Where did she get that amazing ability to have a body that is not only the perfect incubation, but to know what to do and how to create me, to take me from being something that, as a zygote, could not survive outside of her body on my own. For months and months beyond the zygote, could not survive outside of her body on my own. And got me to the point where I was able to survive. And then I was born, released into this world as a brand new life. So, where did she get that amazing ability? Was that something that was handed down by the Lord God? No. It was handed down to her by her mother. who used those very same talents to give rise to my mom. And my grandma got those from her mom, who got them from her mom, who got them from her mom. And I get it. This sounds super simplistic. Yeah, obviously we come from our moms. That we understand sexuality. We get it. Yes. But the point that I'm trying to point out for you is that your mother is different from your father in one very unique way. That ability to create life. That is a remnant of whoever the creator is. That ability to take something into yourself, food, water, air, a little bit of semen, to take it into yourself, use your energy, give a part of yourself to change it into something else, and then release it into the world, ready to do the same, ready to contribute in the same way that you just contributed to them. Not right off the bat. We start off as infantile little babies. Can't walk, can't speak, can't eat on our own. We're completely dependent on someone else, usually our mother. So, somebody has to care for us. We raise blah, 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 blah. But why am I pointing out the ability of a mother? Why am I saying that that is a gift that came from the original creator? Because that right there, that gift, that ability to create within oneself is what led to every single thing in this universe existing. Not one thing came about in a different way. What do I mean? So, that ability to take something within oneself, to add your own energy, and then create something new is the mother creation gift. Something that your mom got from her mom, got from her mom, got from her mom. We go back in time through life. Now we get to asexual species, because again, all life is linked together. We get to the asexual species where there's not going to be a male and female variation. There's just one kind. But what does that one kind of living thing resemble? Is it more like your mother or is it more like your father? Well, what is the difference between your mom and your father? Well, one has boobs, a vagina, penis, so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. One has the ability to create within themselves using that wonderful motherly gift of creation. Just like the asexual species has. The ability to take things into oneself, the air, the food, the water, to use the genetic code that only is provided by the mother type asexual, use their own energy to create something new and bring it out into the world where it will be able to continue that same gift. It now has the ability to do the same thing. Eventually it will reach sexual maturity. It will have the ability to take something into itself, put in its own little energy, turn it into something else, and release it to the world. That's where we all came from. Well, you're only at asexual species, buddy. Keep going, all right? Well, we keep going back through the life forms. Now we're back to single-cell species, or single-cell organisms, not species. The first forms of life that existed on this planet. What did they do to create new life? How did they go through the meiosis type, replication? They had the same gift as our mothers. The ability to take something within itself, to use its own energy to turn it into something new, and to put it out into existence with the ability to continue that trend. So, that's why there's exponential growth when it comes to any kind of cell forming. It's the same thing that happens when you are an embryo inside your mom. You were basically a single-cell organism. It's way more complicated, but basically a single-cell organism that then starts to grow exponentially because you are in the place that is giving you exactly what you need to go through that process. If you are a female, you were most likely given the ability that your mother possessed. So that you, after you go through your maturity, you get to an age where you get to then use that exact same talent to give something else, someone else, the opportunity that you've been given to exist here in this world. So, we're back to single cell species. Let's keep going. If those were the first forms of life on Earth, well, how did they get here? Where did they get that gift of creation from? Well, where did they come from? This is a kind of tricky part where the Earth itself also has the ability to take things into itself, to use its own energy to create something new, which it puts up in, you ever been to Hawaii, you understand what the volcanic matter has the ability to provide. So much nutrients, so much potential for development. Something that might have allowed the very first single-cell organisms to start to exist by adding just what the Earth had within itself. Where did the Earth get the ability to do that? The Earth got the ability from what is at the center of this solar system. Not just that, but stars, the sun. Another thing that has the ability to take something inside of itself, to use its own energy to create something new, and to put it out into existence with the ability to continue that pattern. So, the sun that formed and then coalesced all this matter together to form the planets inside our solar system. Okay, but where did all that matter come from? Where did those come from? Well, that's where we go to stars. The stars are the ones that created almost every single thing, well, every naturally occurring thing from the periodic table of elements. Started off with hydrogen, basically a one-by-one building block. What could loosely be, related to a single-celled organism. The simplest little thing. And then hydrogen coalesced and a wave hit and suddenly it had a little bit of pressure. It formed this new sun. This new sun that absorbed more of that hydrogen, turned it into something new and released it. And I'm not sure if suns are continually releasing matter as they burn, or if it's that they release the matter after their life has ended. When they finally supernova or explode, they release a bunch of matter. Not so sure. So, science, help me out. But where did the sun get that ability from? Where did the hydrogen that initially formed that first sun come from? Well, this is the Big Bang. This is the unfortunate reality of every single origin story we have. That we get to the point that is the beginning. Can something come from nothing? What existed before God? What existed before the Big Bang? What? We don't know. We have no idea. But if you were to take a look at everything that's happened since the Big Bang, everything that I just discussed, I would say that the Big Bang itself was caused by some kind of motherly form that had the ability to take something within itself, to use its own energy, and then create something entirely new that it put out into the world to follow that same pattern. So the story I like to tell myself, the one I made up that makes me feel good, so take it or don't, it's up to you, is that it was a mother. Doesn't matter what she looked like. Yes, I say she. Could be your mother that you have now. Could be, a cricket. It could be a single-celled organism. It could be a sun. We don't know. But I like to imagine it just as a person, just as a female woman floating around. She was the all-powerful type being that we would associate to God. Someone that had the ability to exist forever, but would be by themselves. I like to imagine that this woman this mother, who I guess wasn't a mother yet, this woman, started to experience what it was like to exist. Started experimenting with themselves and trying new things, learning new things, maybe a little bit of a little rub down there, maybe a little bit of an orgasm. So started to experience and was like, wow, this is amazing. This is something that I wish I could share with someone else. I wish that this was something that other people could experience. But maybe if I'm supposed to exist forever, maybe I can think of a way to share this with as many things as possible. But instead of having them continue to last forever, we'll give everybody a little bit of time to experience what exists here, to experience what existence is like. Took that idea into herself. She started to use her own energy, and then she sacrificed herself, like the first sons. That was the Big Bang. That was the first time a mother released something that was brand new into existence. Something that would be able to follow that pattern. And we have been. Everything that exists beyond that Big Bang is dancing to the same music. We are all here for the same reason. Nope. And this will be an edit because I had to go pick my kid up from school. I got a little distracted. So last thing I said was talking about the Big Bang coming from the mom or the first mother, potentially. My own personal story. And the idea that we are all dancing to the same music. Because the music, the tone, the orchestra that's playing, that we are all dancing to began with that first mother. So, to me, it shows that life's purpose is actually really simple. It's that we were given this gift of an opportunity, this opportunity to grow, to advance, to develop, to progress, to become the best versions of ourselves. So that when we decide not to make more children, to make the future generation, that we give them the information we have learned up to that point, so that they can become even better versions of themselves that will be better than us, twice as good as their grandparents, 3 times as good as their great-grandparents, so on and so forth, all the way back in time. Because that's what we're doing here. Whether it be you within your own life, you're supposed to grow, to advance, to progress, to develop, to become the best version of yourself. Within your family, you're supposed to grow, develop, progress, become the best versions of yourselves. Within humanity, we're supposed to grow, develop, progress, become the best versions of ourselves. That's what the whole universe is doing. And we all have this small window of time. This window of time where we get the opportunity to not only live, to learn, to love, to progress and grow, but eventually we do have to leave. The question is, do we want to leave this place in worse or better condition than it was when we got here? Well, I would posit or suggest that if we're trying to become the best versions of ourselves, that it would be to leave this place better than it was when we showed up. All of us. And we kind of have hints of that. That's why we're not essential cavemen that live, in very crude type dwellings. Or we're still not necessarily nomadic, though there may be some nomadic people out there. That we have received knowledge from prior generations. They gave us the ability to learn mistakes that we didn't have to do. Don't eat that, it's poisonous. Don't touch that, it's poisonous. Don't get bitten by that, it will kill you. And they went through all this trial and error, developing, progressing, advancing. And they gave it to us. So now we don't have to make those same mistakes. We can. If we're hard-headed enough that we want to go make those, we can. It's out there. Cool. But we don't have to. We can rely upon the information that our elders, that prior, ancestors came up with. Doesn't mean we have to give them 100% credibility. One of the downfalls to the hierarchy structure that comes from Genesis is that, like here in the United States, when we look back at, the founders of this country, they're almost deified, where they're close to godliness. But if we look at it with this alternative view where, we're all here to be the best versions of ourselves, we can look back and realize that those people, even if they were the greatest human beings of their time, pale in comparison to the average human being today, an average American today. Because we have grown and developed and advanced far beyond where we were in 1770s. The scientific, the medical field, so many different things have grown from that spot. We have moved on, upward, and beyond. So, were they good people? Well, let's hope so. I mean, the story we received from our government agencies tells us that they were good people. I kind of have the sneaking suspicion that instead of it being that there was a bunch of people that were gathered around at the, Constitutional Convention, they weren't necessarily trying to do what's right by us for the future generations. They were just ensuring that those other greedy, manipulative men didn't get to have more power than any other greedy, manipulative man. So they ensured that there was some system in place where none of them could be above any of the other ones, that they would have to be equal. And because they recognize that there will be changes, there will be improvements as time goes on, they left us the ability, or the citizens, whoever was deemed to be citizens, the ability to change the laws with the time. So as our understanding improves, so too can the laws that guide us, that rule over us. We're not stuck. Nothing's written in stone. The only thing that's semi-stone written is we, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, ... Yes, that part will continue to ring true. That is the promise on which this nation was built. What we do with it, that's up to us. And I guess with this understanding, with you seeing at least a small keyhole version of what it is that I've found in this world, it's so disappointing to see the way that we behave based off of that hierarchical model from Genesis. That this world, this existence was a gift that is given to each of us equally. No one of us has more of a claim to it than any other one. We as humans don't have more of a claim than the bees, the gnats, the mosquitoes. We do have the ability to do more with it. We have these wonderful hands and all the lessons that came before us from our ancestors. So yes, we are in a better position. But because we are in a giant symbiotic relationship with everything else in existence, if we're at the height of heights, it's up to us to recognize that we too have a responsibility for all of this. It's not something where we get to take until it's all gone. Because that music that the very first mother started, that we are all dancing to, was the beginning of our story. A story that will continue even if we are so selfish that we end up killing ourselves off. The story of life, the story of progress, advancement, development will continue with or without us. when we die, at the end of our life, our story stops. But our story keeps going. It is an unending story. That's amazing. But thousands of years ago, someone who maybe recognized that this was true, that the female form, the mother, just like the sun at the center of our solar system, is the anchor, the thing by which all nature revolves around. It is the center of our existence. It explains why all the planets revolve around the sun. It explains why whales are willing to travel across the globe for just the possibility of a chance of maybe being able to mate, to procreate for the next generation. It's why lions and anything else that we can consider to be alpha males fight other males to prove to the females that they are the strongest and the one most capable of keeping the females and their young safe. Safe from other males. It's why in the natural world the plumage that is beautiful is with the male form, so that he can learn some kind of special dance, some kind of cool call, and attract the more important female form, so that she can do the one amazing thing that she was handed down from her mother, that originally came from the first mother, the closest thing we have to God. It is a mother-centric existence, even in our world, where men have set up this manipulative hierarchy. Why do men try so hard to have so much wealth? What's the benefit of having the nice car? What's the benefit of having the nice clothes? What's the benefit of having the nice house? To attract the far more important female, the motherly form. And what frustrates me the most is that Genesis was created, like I say, in a time when people were starting to figure this out. Because again, the female-led natural world is not hard to come by. It's not hidden. You don't have to look and search under rocks to find it. Just observe. So I think that there was humanity that was figuring that out. And we as a human species were starting to tackle some of the natural world. We were setting ourselves above, the beasts that might want to hunt us, set us above the plants that were hard to cultivate, but now we've cropped them and we figured out a way to cultivate them and, add irrigation. So now we're farmers. Then we realized that the last brick to tackling the natural world was the female form. And some manipulative man ensured that what was already the center point of nature, the highest of high, the queen of all queens. The only way that I would be able to tackle that problem is to create a story where I put myself up here. I knock her down. I say that this beautiful, amazing gift from God, the first mother, is actually a punishment. That you, the person who is closest to the cardinal or original form, didn't even come first. You're second. You are secondary in all things. You get married, you are your man's helper. That is your position from here until forever. And once I'm able to own women, that female form with the skills of a god, now I am the alpha male. I've tackled everything that this world has, and it is all mine. And it has been working for thousands of years. And for the most part, most of us just want to believe it. It is what my parents believed. It's what their parents believed. It's tradition. That's the way it goes. But let me remind us all, I don't care what race you are, this manipulative story began as gun to the head type situation. So, if you're from Europe, there was a king that once claimed that this was what gave him dominion over the land. You will fucking believe it. If you were a slave who was brought over from Africa, the first thing that they put in your head was a second set of chains. It wasn't just the chains around your wrist or your neck or your ankles. No. We're going to do that mental chain. That one that says that even when these chains get removed, whenever the 14th Amendment gets passed, you are always a servant. There is always going to be the King of Kings, and I am his king, his representative here in this land. You owe me, you servant. I own you. Native Americans, one of the very first things that they tried to force on these native peoples, so Native Americans, Native South Americans, Native Mexicans, Native everywhere that the white man came, they forced that story on you. And it was the first thing. Steal away your customs and traditions and put in this story. Now you are in chains. You are mine. My story, my people. Yum, 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 yum. And then eventually, generation after generation of being forced, of having someone literally put a gun to your head sometimes, chopping off arms, torturing people in the middle of the town square, we started to kind of believe it. Maybe they didn't have to have such a strong iron fist. Maybe now they just had a occasional slap across the face. Yeah. Yep. And it got to the point where it is today, where we no longer need that iron fist. I mean, there's always going to be someone, especially on conservative news, who's going to reinforce that idea of, a good Christian, a good God-fearing human will do. Right. But it's the closest they can get now. Because we have already basically realized that the story doesn't really apply. It really is just a 3,000-year-old manipulation that people told us is true, so we're willing to believe certain aspects of it. And our lack of belief has led these religious people, the people that have all the power, to kind of dial it back, where we get to make all sorts of good changes to this supposedly written in stone, you have to do exactly as the book says, and we've made it so that all those written in stone things are not so written in stone. That some religious organization gets to have a representative that says, like, oh, this just in, it's okay to be gay now. What? But, I mean, for years and generations, you've been saying that that's the worst thing, and that God would smite, and so on and so forth. But now, wait. Oh. Women can be in some kind of leadership positions. Not the top leadership positions, because that remains for the men. But women can have some position within this religion. Yay! I mean, it says in the book that it's not possible. But because you, the believers, weren't going to allow them to continue this grift, this scam on us, they decided, we got to change the scam a little bit to make it a little more acceptable for those who were trying to fool. I come from a Catholic family. My family talks a lot about the Pope and how he's the new progressive Pope, and he's awesome. Yeah. He is a progressive Pope. I'll give you that. Who came right before him? Was that a progressive Pope? No. That looked like living death. He had eyes like mine with these deep circles, but like 50 years in the future deep circles. Looked like someone that would steal your soul. He looked like Emperor Palpatine. That's what it was. Someone from the old religious way. No gay people, no love, no, this is fear, 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 fear. You want to get to the pearly gates? You better do what I say. And the congregation was like, I'm going to have to pass. This isn't really my flavor. And lo and behold, someone got that little note in the ear from God. Oh, this just in. It's time to get us a new pope. We're going to get someone who's, strangely enough, way different than any pope we've had yet. Someone who's more in line with what you are willing to believe. Someone who's willing to go out there and wash someone's feet. Someone who, for the first time in generations, is taking the teachings of Christ, of giving oneself over to the lowest among us, and actually put it into practice. Very small amounts, but man, is that refreshing to see. Someone who's actually practicing what they preach. It's not them from on high telling you, the little peons, to go do it. No, it was someone who was being an example from the top. But the only reason that that example exists is because you would not be willing to accept another Ratzinger. So, I bet you with this new piece of information, they're going to be like, oh, wait. This just in, God's actually a woman. Oh, man. But yeah, it's goofiness. And they've been trying to sell to women that you, of all of us, are the least among us. And it's so ridiculous, because by paying attention to the world around us, you are not. You are the superior sex. You are the cardinal form. You are the most important life form on this earth. Me, a male who is white, who has the ability to take advantage of this hierarchical system, is here to say, you are the superior sex. Women should be equal, not because we as men allow it. You should be equal because you are actually superior. You are closer to what God is. You have not been manipulating us for years and years and years and years and generations and generations and generations. Men have gotten us into wars. Men and their selfish manipulation. They're the reason we pay too much. They're the reason why when there's a frickin' problem that arises, we can't do anything about it. Because we're not trying to be the best versions of ourselves. We're trying to manipulate you out of your understanding, out of your money, out of your talent, out of any good idea you have. Whatever you have, I want it. And it's tearing us apart, Lisa. And it is. Racism is a continuation of that garbage. So, pre-Civil War, there's the whole the Mark of Ham conversation where, I think it's Abraham, but essentially, some dad gets fucking drunk, passes out in his tent, naked, because, that's what a good man does. A good example does. Apparently his son walks by and is like, look at Dad, passed out drunk and naked in his tent again, and goes to his brothers and is like, hey brothers, you see this fucking drunk asshole that doesn't do anything and is passed out in the middle of the day in his tent? Not that this is actually the story. I'm adding a bit to it. And his two brothers go and perform a cover-up, literally. Go to their drunk, sleeping father and cover him. And when he awakes, he's like, oh, I've heard of this. I know that my son Ham was basically saw me naked and passed out in my tent because I'm a piece of shit, and then decided to not do anything about it or judged me, or I'm not sure exactly what it is that he's so mad about. But now the people of Canaan shall be cursed. And people were like, oh yeah, that means that all black people, because Ham and Canaan, black people? No. But the people at the top who were manipulating you were more than happy to say, sure, black people are worse. Black people are the worst kind of people. So you White people, you're still a stupid fucking servant. You are worthless to me. But if it makes you feel more special to know that there's someone even less or with less worth than you, well, yeah, fine, I'll give it to you. Black people aren't worth it, which is exactly what's happening today. So, in America, we had the Civil War, and people talk about it's state rights, it's slavery. No, it's greed. There were a bunch of plantation owners that had free labor. They'd already set up all the other stupid poor white people at a level where they didn't get very much. So you work on the plantation as a hand or somebody that's whipping all the slaves, doing work, by the by, getting paid very little money, but more than the slaves. So you're in a cush spot, right? But yeah, once the slaves are freed, the corporation owners, those men at the top, were like, hey, do you see how they just let those people out? And now they once were slaves, so they were below you, but now they're not slaves, so they're right on par with you. Something that you would think would make you mad at the person who pays you. But no, the people who paid them were like, hey, but you should be mad at them. They're the reason that these slaves have been bumped up to your pay grade level. It's not because I paid you the least amount that I could possibly pay you, so as soon as somebody gained their freedom, now they're making the same amount as you. Now they're in the same position as you because I kept you so low. No. Don't be mad at me. Be mad at the Northerners. We need to go fight and kill them so that I can make more money. So that I still don't have to pay you more. Now you go sacrifice your life. Go kill people in front of your family. Go kill your brothers, your cousins, your whomever, so that I can make more money. Oh, you guys lost? Well, it's all right. We'll just put in these Jim Crow laws. Now we'll make it so that I can still keep you white people way down here at below what you actually deserve. But I'll make sure that black people are always just a little bit lower. Just to make sure that you're okay with receiving the worst kind of bullshit. I guess not the worst. Second to the worst kind of bullshit. And now we're at it again today, where corporations are using these people that are very religious-minded and saying like, oh, look at them. These black people are asking for like equality or like the ability not to die at the hands of police officers. This is ridiculous. We should do something about it. You should go attack your fellow Americans to ensure that I, at the top, don't have to treat anybody with any kind of respect. I owe you nothing. These black people thinking that they are owed freedom, owed rights, owed liberty. What, is that promised to you in some kind of constitution? Yes. Abso-fucking-lutely. And if you choose not to support that constitution, that's fine. Don't call yourself a patriot. Don't hold yourself in high regard here in this nation. Because you are the worst of us. The worst among us. But the same thing's true for the gay, lesbian, LGBTQIA+. You want to love someone else? Nah. You got to abide by my rules. You make a man with a woman, and you make babies. You don't get to abort those babies. Fuck no. Those babies get to become my future employees. So you can't afford them because I don't pay you enough. That's fine. Make do. Do your best. Get to work. You're not accepted. You're not accepted in this world where we are supposed to be becoming the best versions of ourselves. Not, again, for lack of a better word, slaving away in hopes that we can earn some time off from those at the top. And now they're starting to buy off all the property. So pretty soon you don't even get to own your own slice of the pie. So when you retire, you don't get to go to your home and enjoy what is your home before you die and it goes to your children. No. You're still going to have to work because you have to pay rent. You don't get to own. Who do you think you are? Clearly, you don't see this hierarchy. You stay here. I stay here. no matter what. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating because not only is it against what this existence is, but it's based off of a story that we've been forced into believing, that we're not allowed to get away from. So even I, as a person who does not have faith, live in a system where faith is ruling almost everything. Because again, like I said, when the new world started, Puritans were the first to come over here. Religious base is our foundation here in this nation, even though we're supposed to have the separation of church and state, meaning that we should be able to go to church to celebrate whatever faith we want. I'm okay with that. By all means, keep your faith to yourself. Practice however it is that you want to within the confines of your own home or your own church or your own community. But just as it is when it comes to sex, there needs to be consensual relationship consent when you try and force that upon me. You don't get to just say, take it, take it, take it, take it. No, I don't want it. I have no need for it other than for this here to show how ridiculous it truly is. How silly it is that we have allowed ourselves to fall prey to it. It is. And we deserve better. So much better. So much better. So how can we improve this system that's clearly been, programmed and designed to be counter to us, the low men on the totem pole, low women on the totem pole? Well, I can't speak for any other nation, but here in the United States, we still have representation, representatives who are supposed to represent us. They do not. Please don't think that I am saying they do. Very few do. I would say Cori Bush, one of the very few representatives that I feel as though she represents her constituents. Us, people. But she's not alone. There are onesie-twosies here and there, but for the most part, the system has been rigged. So now those people who are at the top, who have gained all this wealth, power, and who dominate us with this story and hierarchy, those representatives work for them. So if we want to change this system, even if we want to keep almost everything the same laws, same type of government, same type of everything else, start off with new representation. Representatives who aren't full of shit, who aren't there to represent those at the top, who are actually here to represent us. Because as it stands right now, anytime we bring up some idea to try and help the people at the bottom, the wealthiest people are like, well, yeah, you can ask us to do that, but we're just going to make you pay for it. You want more minimum wage? Well, we're going to raise prices. Oh, you want us to pay more taxes? We're going to raise prices. We don't even care if we're going to run this whole economic system off the fucking edge of a cliff. Doesn't matter. We will not take personal responsibility. We will allow you to. Because of that hierarchy. I'm up here, I don't pay the price. You do. These people in the middle, those officers who shoot you on my behalf because of this system that I've set up, I'm not going to pay for their mistake. You will. Oh. You want this world to get better? Then why don't you do something about it? Okay. Absolutely. I'll do something about it. Here I go. So, is there a way that we can replace our representatives? Oh, fuck yeah. I have another channel called Opinionized, where I'm trying to bring America together to realize we're all on the same team. Those people at the top in this hierarchical structure, they've basically split us apart into these tiny little groups. Divide and conquer. So, we're in our, echo chambers. And we don't get to hear any outside knowledge. We're not supposed to relate to one another. We're supposed to see each other as the opponent, the enemy, the one who's trying to destroy this country. Country that's supposed to be for us, the people down here. But somehow, you wanting rights, you are destroying my country. You're taking away the freedoms and liberties of the country by gaining your own rights? What? Black lives matter. No, all lives matter. Yeah, dumb fuck. That's why Black lives matter. The whole point is that our lives are supposed to be on a fucking line. That there is no hierarchy where this person's life is worth $10 billion. My life is worth $400. No. Every life is priceless. There is no reason why any of us should lose our life to another person unless we are a person who is being aggressive. We are attacking. So if we are the person who's trying to take someone's life, yeah, it's okay if someone takes our life. That's how it works. You don't get to use some logic based on the fucking hierarchy that's full of bullshit to say, well, I'm up here, you're down here, your life is worth less. I get to kill you, no questions asked. Nope. Not at all. But it is hard for us to see. And I get that. I get that things look hopeless because of that system. The system that has been put in front of us. The system that was laid at our feet, that we were born into. But it's not. You give me hope. We are the ones that simply need to get new representation. That way, at the representative level within our government, the vast amounts of money and influence and manipulation that these wealthiest of wealthy people have been using as a tool against us no longer matters. It's just a story. Some people will continue to want to believe in it. That's fine. There should still be churches that teach the doctrine, so that if it is something that you want to practice, by all means do so. But it does not get to be in our government. We have a true separation of church and state. Yeah, obviously this is not something I can do on my own. This is something that requires a majority of us. The only thing I can do is put the message out there. Share what I have seen in this world. Share that the hopelessness we feel doesn't need to continue. We have the ability to progress, to advance, to develop into better versions of ourselves, so that my kids, your kids, our kids have a better world to face when they get to be mature. Then maybe their kids can make it a little better, and a little better, and a little better, so that in 500 years, we can look back and realize this place fucking rocks. Because I don't know if you ever heard of the allegory of the spoons, but essentially somebody has the ability to go up to heaven and go down to hell. They realize, or they're somewhere basically telling somebody what they saw when they went to both these places. And they say that it's the same. In heaven and hell, there's a bunch of people sitting around a table that is fully furnished with delicious food. But everybody has a spoon. A spoon that's too big for them to be able to feed themselves. I don't know if it's too long. Point being is you can't feed yourself. In heaven, everybody's happy, full, content, having a great time because people are using those too long spoons to feed one another. So everybody's getting enough to eat. They are working together. Down in hell, everybody is starving. They're angry, they're upset, and they keep trying to feed themselves unsuccessfully. That is the difference between heaven and hell. Goodness, badness. Selfishness, bad. Helping each other out. Becoming the best versions of ourselves. Living according to the golden rule will inspire things to be more like heaven. We all want it. There's a reason why heaven is the ultimate payoff to religion. You have to trade this life, this world, all your wants, all your desires, anything that you could possibly want to do for the hope of heaven after you die. Well, I'm here to say that we don't need to wait until we die. We can make this existence heaven, or at least closer to what heaven could be. Because right now, I'd say we're closer to the allegory of the spoons in hell. Selfish, 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 and we're all hungry, and we don't have enough, and we're starting to feel hopeless. Yeah. I guess that's going to be enough for today. But this is Ex Matres. That's the only message I want to put out there, is that we can be so much better. We all agree that progress is good, development is good, advancement is good. Why do we allow this hierarchy to stop us in our lives from becoming the best versions of ourselves? Well, that goes to the heaven promise. That goes to the story being forced on us for so long that now it is seeped into every single system that governs our everyday lives. So, what can we do about it? I don't know. Let's start a discussion. What can we do about that? My name is Ed. Thank you for your time. Call your mom. Tell her you love her. Send her a nice little bit of flowers. Hopefully your mom doesn't suck. My mom is pretty great. She has a tendency to be the because I say so mom, but she was also a single mom with 5 kids, so she gets a little leeway there. Call your mom. Say hi to your dad too. Fuck, nobody's saying ignore your dad. Nobody here is saying that men are bad. Now, some men that have been using this story as a manipulation, yeah, fuck those guys. Those people are the ones that we should be able to clear their goddamn bank accounts. Put that money back to us. Not necessarily divide it up amongst us, but new schools, new fucking hospitals, the things that we actually need in our communities. The things that will allow us to become the best versions of ourselves. So, yeah, call your mom. Thank you for your time.